A lot of people have this idea of Littlefinger being this super genius that manipulates everyone and is always 5 steps ahead of everyone else, and I'm here to prove these people wrong. I want to go a step further in fact and show he has a level of fortuitousness that I'm not sure any other character has benefited from. In other words, he's got massive plot armour. I just want to preface the fact that I'm mainly going to be talking about Littlefinger during books 1 and 2, so A Game of Thrones and A Clash of Kings, but they correlate very closely to the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, so this isn't a book only thing. Also, make sure you watch to the end because I'm also going to be explaining why George R.R. Martin's writing style damaged Littlefinger's plotline in the books. I want to quickly go through his plot during book 1 from his point of view because I think a lot of you will find it very interesting. So Ned Stark arrives in King's Landing as a new hand of the king and Littlefinger immediately begins to fuck with him. He positions himself as a trusted advisor to Ned and gains his trust. Jon Arryn, the previous hand of the king, was killed by Lysa Arryn under the manipulation of Littlefinger, and Ned starts to investigate his death. So Littlefinger subtly directs Ned's investigation by providing him information and introducing him to key informants, especially within his network of brothels. This helps Littlefinger keep an eye on Ned's progress while appearing helpful. He wants Ned to think that it was the Lannisters that did it. Littlefinger then guides Ned into finding about the incest between Jaime and Cersei, suggesting allying with Rannu Baratheon. In the background, he's actually playing both sides, trying to cause as much chaos as possible. There are some problems with Littlefinger's plan. I mean, his entire plan is to start a civil war and then hope the civil war benefits him somehow. This is literally the full extent of Littlefinger's plan. Like I said before, people thinking Littlefinger is this master schemer who's 30 steps ahead at all times. He's not. He's quite literally throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. He's more of a walking plot device rather than a realistic portrayal of a man of limited means trying to advance himself in an unjust social system by any means necessary. Moving past that, his plan for Ned to figure out the incest to pit the Lannisters and Starks against each other to create chaos can backfire on him in a million different ways because he doesn't know how Ned will respond to the incest. His plan instantly falls apart if Ned instantly tells Robert instead of confronting Cersei about the incest. Cersei would not have killed Robert. Robert would have focused on eliminating the Lannisters, which would have undermined Littlefinger's influence, and essentially left the realm in a more stable regime. This is the exact opposite of what he's trying to achieve, which is total chaos and hoping to gain more influence from it. That's just one way his plan could have backfired, but you can start to see that his plan doesn't really work because he doesn't really have a plan. He's just making shit up. Littlefinger is not a genius, he just gets away with big gambles because so many things outside of his influence could have gone wrong. When Catelyn Stark arrives in King's Landing with the dagger used in the attack on her son, Littlefinger, on the spot by the way, claims it belongs to Tyrion, despite it originally being his own. He tells Catelyn and Ned that Tyrion won it from betting against his brother when Jaime lost to the Mountain in a duel. This lie essentially starts the War of the Five Kings, so he just happens to come up with the perfect lie off the top of his head when he doesn't even know anything about the situation. It's absolutely absurd. Furthermore, he doesn't even know what Ned's like. For all he knows, Ned and Catelyn could investigate the specifics of where the dagger came from and he'd instantly be found out. In fact, there's a scene in the books, I'm pretty sure it's not in the TV show, during the second day of the Hand's tourney. Littlefinger and Renly respectively bet on Jaime and the Hound during their bout. After the Hound beats Jaime, Renly says, "I pity the imp is not here with us, I should have won twice as much." This basically indicates that Tyrion would never bet against his brother Jaime in a joust. I personally didn't pick up on it at all, someone had to mention it out for me. But you can start to see some of the cracks in Littlefinger's plot here. Had Ned been someone a lot smarter, he might have picked up on this. To be fair to Ned, you gotta be some Sherlock Holmes to pick up on it, so I'm not blaming Ned at all here. Another problem with the dagger lie was that it was very convenient it was pinned on Tyrion. In the show, they had Littlefinger plan this whole assassination attempt on Bran, but in the books, it's implied it was probably Joffrey. It isn't clear, but what's suggested in the books is that Robert won the dagger from Littlefinger from a bet and had the weapon in his armoury while travelling to Winterfell. Then Joffrey overheard his father talking about how it would be better to mercy kill Bran than to let him live out his life as a cripple. In a bid to win over his father's approval, he was probably stupid enough to hire the Catspaw to kill Bran. So in the books, Littlefinger lies on purpose and says Tyrion was the one who orchestrated the attack as previously mentioned. However, there's no reason to do this. Tyrion is literally on the other side of the continent as they have this conversation and has substantially less influence over the court than Jaime or Cersei. He could have just told them that it was from the king's armoury and that one of the Lannisters probably took it and it would have been true. There's no reason they would suspect Tyrion over his siblings. The point I'm trying to make is that he could have reasonably blamed any Lannister, but he blamed the one Lannister who Cat happens to meet on the way back. A situation he literally could not have predicted or banked on. Just to remind you guys, Tyrion was captured by Catelyn after their meet in the Crossroads, which is in Tully territory, Catelyn's ancestral lands, in an inn where she captures him as her prisoner to answer for the crime of trying to get Bran killed. If Tyrion and Catelyn meet at literally any other point, then this whole sequence of events do not occur. They have to meet at the crossroads in the Riverlands, otherwise she doesn't have Tully Bannerman to take him to the Eyrie to stand trial. Another problem I have with Littlefinger is how he openly boasts about taking the maidenhead of the Tully daughters, Catelyn and Lysa, with absolutely no consequence. Tyrion tells Catelyn pretty directly that Baelish told the entire court about the business himself. Tyrion also starts going into pretty explicit detail of what Baelish had actually said when one of the rivermen interrupts him. "Why does a bear shit in the woods?" he demanded. "Because it's in his nature. Lying comes as easy as breathing to a man like Littlefinger. You ought to know that, you of all people." She took a step toward him, her face tight. "And what does that mean, Lannister?" Tyrion cocked his head. "Why, every man at court has heard him tell how he took your maidenhead, my lady." "That is a lie," Catelyn Stark said. "Oh, wicked little imp," Marillion said, shocked. Curlicute drew his dirk, a vicious piece of black iron. "At your word, my lady, I'll toss his lying tongue at your feet." His pig eyes were wet with excitement at the prospect. Catelyn Stark stared at Tyrion with a coldness on her face such as he had never seen. "Petyr Baelish loved me once. He was only a boy. His passion was a tragedy for all of us, but it was real and pure, and nothing to be made a muck of. He wanted my hand, that is the truth of the matter. You are truly an evil man, Lannister. And you are truly a fool, Lady Stark. Littlefinger has never loved anyone but Littlefinger, and I promise you that it is not your hand that he boasts of, but those right breasts of yours, and that sweet mouth and the heat between your legs." Ignoring the fact that Catelyn should have probably started to mistrust Littlefinger from here on out, and probably sent a raven or a messenger to warn Ned about trusting Littlefinger. You know, since she was the one who told Ned that he could be trusted. I don't know, I feel like she fucked up here by not connecting the dots, but Tyrion is also culpable. Instead of being in earnest about Littlefinger no longer being the boy she remembers, he insults her intelligence and makes crude remarks about her body. So stupid and unnecessary in my opinion. Getting back on track, later we are shown Littlefinger boasting about that himself in front of the small council, after Ned suffers a forced mitosis via a greatsword. So he goes around spreading very damaging rumours about the wives of Ned Stark and Jon Arryn, but for some reason he doesn't get kicked out of his position. The Hand of the King doesn't care that his wives and his family's honours being tainted by some random maester of coin. Not just that, these rumours can also cast doubt upon the parentage of Jon Arryn's kids, particularly with Baelish so close by in King's Landing and having easy access to Lysa. Realistically, Baelish would have been killed as soon as he started spreading this nonsense. His rumours deal great insult to 3 major houses. Hell, considering how impulsive Robert is, he would have beaten the shit out of Baelish as soon as he heard of these rumours, for insulting his best friend and his foster father. Regardless, Littlefinger then betrays Ned and gets him imprisoned before being executed, forcing the North to raise their banners and kickstart the Lannister-Stark fight. It's the aftermath of all this where Littlefinger's thick plot armour really starts to show. So Tyrion comes to King's Landing and is named Hand of the King in his father's Lord Tywin's name and is specifically told to clean out court. So Tyrion cleans shop and gets rid of Janos Slynt, Grand Maester Pycelle, but Littlefinger? Nah, he's chill, we don't have to worry about him. It's not like he's the one who orchestrated the War of the Five Kings or almost got me killed. Not only was Tyrion stuck in a sky cell for a while, but he was genuinely super close to dying when he wanted a trial by combat. After his proposal for his brother to fight in his name got rejected, Bronn steps in and fights for him. If Bronn had not been such a talented fighter, or worse, no one wanted to fight for him, he'd be dead right now. All because of a lie Littlefinger spread. In the book, he's like, he's just too useful, influential and dangerous, I can't kill him, it's too risky. Instead, I'll just make him look silly by using him in the Marcella plan. That'll teach him not to almost get me killed again. What? And the funniest thing is that it literally happens again. Tyrion sits in a dungeon awaiting trial for Joffrey's murder, and he doesn't think, hey, this is just like that time last year when I was also framed for a murder I didn't commit. I wonder if the same guy was responsible this time.
Wait, I am not bipolar, I'm not in some kind of episode, but I may be slightly autistic.
For some reason, whenever Littlefinger is involved, smart characters will mysteriously drop 50 IQ points just so Littlefinger's schemes can keep working. Now I do however think there's a reason why Littlefinger has his plot armour and the reason why this whole dagger plot is a bit messy on the author's part, and that's to do with George R.R. Martin's writing style. Now we're going to have to go all the way back to when George R.R. Martin was first writing A Game of Thrones and was instructed by his publishers to send them a rough draft of what the series A Song of Ice and Fire's overall plot would contain. Now this is really early on, specifically 13 chapters into writing his first book in the series A Song of Ice and Fire. Now there's a lot of interesting stuff that was mentioned that completely don't follow what the book showed to date. For example, Jon, Arya and Tyrion were supposed to have some weird love triangle, while Cersei was supposed to marry Joffrey and give him an heir. But what's really relevant to this video is that Jaime was supposed to be evil, and his goal was to eliminate everyone in front of him in line to become king. As we know, George R.R. Martin's plans change and differ as he writes. He's a gardener. I'm pretty convinced that George R.R. Martin initially planned Tyrion to send Littlefinger to the wall in place of Janos Slynt, as justice for Ned's betrayal and the lie about the dagger. I feel like there was a reason Littlefinger openly boasted about taking the maidenhead of the Tully daughters and held a dagger to Ned's throat. Why Catelyn told Tyrion that Littlefinger framed him, and why Tywin gave Tyrion permission to clean out court. I believe that originally it was in fact Jaime and the other Lannisters who were supposed to be the orchestrators of the War of the Five Kings, by murdering Jon Arryn and Jaime being the one who hired the assassin to murder Bran. Remember, Cersei wasn't even a character at this point of time. She was only included after George R.R. Martin started expanding his story. What I think occurred was that George R.R. Martin decided that Littlefinger, being the architect of the War of the Five Kings and being Sansa's mentor, appealed to him more. He then probably decided to have a Beauty and the Beast dynamic with Brienne and Jaime, so he decided to split Jaime into two characters, quite literally, by having an identical twin, Cersei. In the original outline, George stated that Jaime Lannister will follow Joffrey on the throne in the Seven Kingdoms by killing everyone in front of him in the line of succession and blaming his brother Tyrion for the murders. Does that sound familiar at all? So his sister is the one who follows Joffrey to take the throne and blames Tyrion for the death of all her children. That's why Littlefinger's so confusing, because his behaviour, motivations and plans are different in the first book compared to the later ones. That's a lot of speculation though, so I might be wrong in some places. This is a very controversial video and I know a lot of people aren't going to like it, so if you disagree, leave a comment and we can discuss it further. I want this channel to talk about more of the controversial takes instead of the bland Game of Thrones Season 8 sucked or Game of Thrones Season 1 to 4 are so amazing, because I feel like those discussions are more interesting. Also, if you like this video, I'd recommend looking at my other video on Sansa Stark as well as my video on the Red Wedding. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, please do give it a like, I'd really appreciate it. Also, let me know what other videos you'd like to see me do next in the comment section below. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next video.